Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Thank you for stopping by. Well, coming again today, you're very, very welcome. I trust you enjoyed my last video on Kenny Loggins. He had two massive songs in the 80s, the movie Footloose and the title track from that movie, Move Forward to Top Gun and Danger Zone. So a number one and number two hits in the charts, and we looked at danger zones in our lives. So I trust you found that one encouraging. Well, we're going from there to 1966 in Ontario, Canada, but there are certainly some links to the United States in here as well. This band, considering they only had 3 albums, and considering that they were only around for about 3-4 years, these guys are so significant and so influential that they've been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame all the way forward in 1997. These names, we are talking rock and roll royalty right here. We've got Neil Young, Stephen Stills, Bruce Palmer, Dewey Martin, Richie Furay. Blend of folk, country, British invasion and psychedelic rock. Buffalo Springfield was a culmination of a few bands before it formed in 1966. All these guys, these rock and roll legends, were very, very young at this stage, and this is what gave them their start. They would culminate eventually at the Troubadour in West Hollywood, and it was here that the manager of the Byrds, now let's talk about David Crosby, who was part of the Byrds. So we've got Crosby, Stills and Young in here as well. So why don't you actually play at the Whiskey A Go-Go? And they said what a great idea that one is, and they had a 7-week residency there, and because of that particular gig they got a very, very important and incredible live reputation. They did actually garnish the interest of a few record labels at this point, because the industry suddenly had a big, massive shake-up when this group was formed. Their opening single, Nowadays Clancy Can't Even Sing, was their opening single, but the Buffalo Springfield album would eventually be released. And probably the most well-known song is For What It's Worth. This actually got to number 7 in the Billboard Top 100. This it was around this time that we were getting, it was the hippie movement, the flower power, and a bit of a rebellion against authority in all of its forms. We had the violent stuff, but then also the not so violent stuff, sometimes the peaceful love stuff as well. But there were young people clashing with police. And For What It's Worth, I think it's almost a bit of a thing where we're just going to put our bit of a analysis, I suppose, poetic words into this situation as well, because it's not good what's actually going on here. There's a bit going on both sides here that's not good. And so For What It's Worth was a massive song for these guys, and it would sell 1 million copies, which is pretty amazing for the late 1960s. They would ride on the crest of a wave at this point. Everybody wanted to see these guys. Everyone was taken with how incredibly tight their musicianship was, how amazing their vocals are, how incredibly ethereal and almost transformative are their lyrics. There's just something about Buffalo Springfield that is quite compelling, and these guys certainly knew they were onto a good thing when they started performing. In 1967, out came Buffalo Springfield again. We've got a couple of songs off that album. We've got Mr. Soul. We've got a live version of that one together with For What It's Worth, actually. And we've also got a live version of Rock and Roll Woman. So we've got some clips there below where you can see Buffalo Springfield in action. These guys were never short of never far away from the law themselves, and it was again, we're talking the drug culture of the late 1960s, and they always had issues with the law. And it was only a matter of time before these guys probably weren't going to be able to keep going. It was getting a bit tricky. They weren't able to play anywhere without causing any trouble. But this is what rock and roll is, isn't it? Rock and roll has this element to it. And this is what makes it such a compelling thing. And Buffalo Springfield absolutely capitalised on that fact with the way that they would write songs and perform. In 1968, these guys did eventually break up. It was decided it was just getting a bit too much and a little bit too hard. So they did break up at the point and they did go separate ways. Before we get on to that, we had Jim Messina, actually part of Buffalo Springfield towards the end. And I mentioned him last time with Kenny Loggins. Those two were one of the most successful acts in the early 1970s. We also had Poco as well, that prior to the Eagles, we had Poco, and Poco were an amazing band in many, many ways, country rock, absolutely. Then we had Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. Now, of course, David Crosby was part of the Byrds. We had Neil Young, we had Stephen Stills, and Graham Nash was sort of floating around as well, but that was a super group in the 1970s. And so I think what makes Buffalo Springfield so amazing is the legacy that they have left. Just before I get on to that, 1968, they did have the album Last Time Around, and we've got Kind Woman. Now, I've got a live version of this one by Poco, who of course was one of the flow and effects of Buffalo Springfield. I think the thing I want to take out of these guys' story, now the lyrics are a little bit mysterious. I think for what it's worth isn't, but certainly a few of the other songs are quite mysterious in the way they're written. They're brilliantly written songs because they get you to think. But Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Poco, one of the most incredible duos out of the early 1970s, Jim Messina and Kenny Loggins. I think it just goes to show that when these guys got together, and they weren't big when they got together, they didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know what Buffalo Springfield was going to bring for them. They didn't know that they were going to have rock and roll careers after this band finished. But they did. And this is the thing about life, isn't it? We've got to make the most of the opportunities when they present themselves. Because we don't actually know how big an opportunity is going to be, or what it's going to turn into, or what it's going to represent. But we just take a step and see what happens. Now, if these guys hadn't formed, we may not have had the rock legends that these guys would become. They wouldn't have had the careers that they've had. But when you capitalise on opportunities and you capitalise on the chances you're given, well, things can happen. But, we've got to take steps in that direction. We just can't sort of wait and hope that things will work out. We've actually got to take steps to enable life to emerge for us. We don't have the whole picture at the start. We just don't. We just take one step, and then what will happen is that a few other steps will emerge. In the case of Buffalo Springfield, let's form the band Buffalo Springfield. Great, I'm going to have some bit of fun here, write some pretty cool songs, be around for a short amount of time. But they did not know about the collaboration of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. They didn't know about Poco. Jim didn't know about Kenny Loggins, who had heard of him, but, he didn't know what was going to happen there. Chances are taken. And if they're not, they disappear. So I think that the title of this video is Legends Born. It's very much about capitalising on the opportunity you're given in this life. And we do get given opportunities, and we may not know when they're going to come, but at some point they will. And so, may this be a bit of a challenge to us today about if you're facing a challenge right now, a bit of an opportunity right now, you're thinking, no, I won't do that. As an example, when I was in my 20s, three of my friends decided to go to the UK for 12 months. I'm in Australia. Now, I didn't go. Was that me not grasping the opportunity? Well, we just won't know whether it was an opportunity or not. We just don't know, do we? Another example of more recent times, I had been friends with a girl for 12 months. We weren't even romantically, there was no inkling of romance at all. And then one night, something changed, and she got me up on the dance floor. Now, if I hadn't taken that chance, I wouldn't have met the girl beyond my wildest dreams. Opportunities do come when you least expect. In fact, the funny thing about that particular one is that was actually a smaller group of people that went out somewhere after dinner. So I wasn't even planning to go to this place, but I'm so glad I did. Because, happiness is a beautiful thing when you find it. And so let's make the most of our opportunities when they present themselves. So I've got the studio clip of For What It's Worth. I've got a live version of For What It's Worth and Mr. Soul. I've got a live version of Rock and Roll Woman. I've got a live version of Kind Woman by Poco. And then we've also got the 1997 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction with Tom Petty. And we've also got a performance, and you've got some absolutely rock and roll legends up on stage all together. How priceless is this particular performance? So between 1966 and 68, there were 3 albums, but there has been 4 compilation albums and 8 singles. They sold about 1 million albums, so not bad for 3 years. 300,000 copies per album sold. So these guys well and truly have contributed to this collaborative legacy of this thing called music. And it's good to be able to be prompted about these guys when I did the Kenny Loggins video last time. So the links to those 6 clips are in the description below, and I have included my last video from Kenny Loggins. If you want a recap on him, feel free. Well, if this is your first time to Life Reflections through Music, or you come back for another one, how great to see everybody here. Next time, we're going to get on to Kenny Marks, and he had a pretty amazing story through some of the songs, songs that went in sequence. So we're going to get on to him next time. So until then, I'll catch you around. Bye for now.